Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Lightning Round. I am Kevin Tompkins, as always. My good friend Gary Haddow, my third co-host, Mr. Andrew Cooper, on a second maiden voyage with Lightning Round, and we've got a great guest tonight, Mr. Chopper himself, Ian Hartitz. My friend, how are you?
Yeah, I'm surprised you found one that was in good enough shape to go flying out to advertise the show, but I'm doing good, guys. Grinding every day here, May 26th. I've, been thrilled to finally get these rosters set. It's always a long free agency draft period. And man, without any sort of XFL or AAF to give me some live football to get by, I felt like it was a longer process than usual, but here we are now. I feel like I'm already in the thick of the off-season grind. I know we got some good rookie redraft talk coming up, so appreciate you guys having me on and pump talk some ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a few months in the making here trying to get this to happen. So glad Gary got out of that Dallas snowstorm, or the Austin snowstorm, I'm sorry, to join us. Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, you hitting those best ball streets there, Ian?
Yeah, I've been doing quite. I've been, just had some stuff going on this month. But before a draft, I was getting into it more. You can catch myself and John Daigle every Friday over on the Roto World, whatever the hell they're calling it these days, on that stream at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're actually having Scott Pianowski, in my opinion, one of the better fantasy analysts in the business. Always got his stuff over at Yahoo Sports. So check us out. And yeah, man, usually going through Underdog. I've done some streams with Josh Norris as well, but it's always a good time, man. Those, I like having the slow drafts. You just every now and then look down your phone. And your friends are like, "Are you texting?" It's like, no, I'm just winning money on best ball. Like, chill out.
That's right, dude. I'm hitting Auden Tate in the 17th. What are you doing?
Thank you, man. and Chris Herndon the 16th. It's all good.
More like the 27th for Auden Tate, bro.
Uncalled for, man. Unprovoked shot.
Already early, yeah. I do actually kind of like Chris Herndon this year, though. Adam Gase was the one holding him back with all that pass blocking, and 1/4 of every pass plays, dude. There's 100 pass snaps he's going to get back. So let's see.
George Kittle rule.
I love it. Yeah, I'm ready to get into these rookies. Let's before we get into that, though, let's do a little housekeeping here. So make sure that you are subscribed to us on YouTube, on Spotify, everywhere you can find podcasts. YouTube/Lightning Round. You can find us there. Also, our friends over at Viridian Global have all your Lightning Round merchandise. So go over to ViridianGlobal.com, click on Football Collective. If you purchase some of our gear, use code Lightning Round, all one word, for 25% off of your purchase. So, Ian, I have the first question for you as far as this rookie class. So we know last year, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, list goes on with dudes that just absolutely smashed fantasy last year as rookies. So looking into 2021, how do we properly evaluate this class, knowing what these guys just did 6 months ago, and maybe putting aside some of that bias, looking to this class with just so many, receiving studs. Maybe it's a little bit thinner at running back, but you've got Naji Harris there as kind of that bell cow with Pittsburgh. What are your thoughts on kind of separating the two classes as far as, valuing?
Yeah, just, treat every kind of situation, just use everything we know about the situation to make our best opinion. I know a lot of people want to just hang their hat on the entire talent argument, but ultimately, you can be awesome at evaluating talent, but if your opinions don't line up with what the actual football team's opinions are, you're going to be out of luck. So in my opinion, draft capital is just going to be huge. If it's, if we're talking redraft and they were not picked in the top 3 rounds, you better have a damn good reason for, putting any sort of capital yourself into those guys. I think Michael Carter, okay, that's someone that we can get behind. He was like the 2nd or 3rd pick of the 4th round. There are some exceptions to the rule, but truly since 2010, top performing rookie performers, top 12 QB or tight end, top 24 running back or wide receiver, over 80% of those guys at every position have been drafted inside the first 3 rounds. So, a lot of time to fall in love with some of these prospects, like Khalil Herbert and some of these guys where you might love them up until the draft comes around late April. But then you just got to look at the situation and say, are they gonna get touches, or my prior's just trying to sell me on this guy in an awful situation? So I'd say really pay attention to that. And yeah, and this is obviously the situation they're into. These running backs, again, like Michael Carter on the Jets is best case. We knew the Jets, the Falcons, and the Steelers are pretty much the top 3 rooms for a rookie to go into and thrive. So, just trying to keep expectations in check a little bit for some of these dudes, but more than anything, just try to evaluate each situation as its own. Win.
Boom. I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like I've been looking at the fourth round guys. Like I know a lot of people love Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the situation is good. I mean, it's a skeleton crew because they're basically trying to lose this year, So I mean, the targets could be there, but like you were saying, I mean, who are the best fourth round wide receivers of the last 10 years? We're talking like Jamison Crowder, Kiki Kuti. I mean, beyond that. Seriously though, beyond that, it gets pretty ugly. Like we're talking, a lot of the names aren't even in the league, and going back a decade, there's not a lot there. I mean, before that, Brian Hartline maybe. So, if we're outside of the top 3 rounds, like you said, it's got to be something real special. You know what I mean? I have to hear that Amon-Ra St. Brown is the starting slot guy from day one for me to even consider that kind of thing.
Yeah, it definitely throws things into whack when you talk about redraft compared to everything else, especially the people that are still paying attention right now and doing drafts. Like you're talking about like 3rd, 4th, 5th round of your rookie draft. And then you get into the redrafts and you're like, man, are guys even in the 2nd round getting drafted in a redraft? Like it's just an entirely different equation, which I think lends itself pretty well to kind of where we're going here. And I that's my question. Like my overarching question of all of this is, do you, Ian, like actually have guys that you are particularly interested in redraft?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, man. I got guys I'm interested in all over the place. Just out of this class, though, I guess, really the ones I think you should be trying the hardest to come away with. I'm buying more into the idea that Trey Lance just isn't going to be spending that much time on the bench. The 49ers can talk all they want about Jimmy G, starting off and everything. But ultimately, to give up that sort of, draft capital, move up and go get your guy. Hey, it should be Trey Lance season sooner rather than later. And once it is, man, like he's going to be a QB1 from day one in fantasy land just because he runs the ball so damn much. So that's kind of the tricky part when you base your entire process around just these median projections, because if you're trying to go win the Fantasy Pros ranking competition, everyone's going to be ranking Trey Lance, like QB 17, QB 18, maybe at best, because you got to consider, him missing the weeks. But in reality, man, if you can get someone that's giving you the high end outcomes for whenever they're on the field, that's more valuable than someone who's going to be, a QB 15 every single week along the way. So I do think Lance is someone that gives you that upside where unfortunately it might take a couple of weeks to get him out there. Probably not quite as long as everyone wants, though. I'm slowly starting to buy more into ETN. Not necessarily because, I think Urban Meyer is doing a bunch of good with Jacksonville. I mean, it's been one questionable decision after another. And I say that as an Ohio State stan. I mean, I'd love to see the guy go and make it happen. But with ETN, man, I wanted Laviska Shenault to get this Percy Harvin role so bad. But you know what? If Urban's telling me it's not Viska, I got to move off it and accept that it's going to be ETN. And if they want to throw the ball to him as much as they're talking about, man, ETN, like, who cares how bad the Jaguars could be? We just saw James Robinson overcome a worse offense last year and be a top 10 RB. It sounds like ETN is going to have more than enough carries and likely the targets to go with it. So he's someone I've been, prioritizing a little more after just not being thrilled about the initial landing spot. And then at a wide receiver, I would say the Elijah Moore situation is tough because Jamison Crowder has been a cut candidate freaking since February. I know a lot of contracts, like they can save money if they cut them after June 1st versus before. That's not the case for Crowder. It's not the case for Jimmy Graham. I don't know what these teams are doing waiting so long with this. We'll see, man. Yeah. And like Crowder's fine. I'm not even here to hate on Jamison Crowder, but you went ahead and got Elijah Moore. We know he fits comfortably in the slot. I mean, it's going to be Corey Davis and Denzel Mims on the outside. Just get them out there sooner rather than later. And once they do, hopefully have him in there in place of Crowder, we're looking at truly like the one wide receiver everybody wanted to go, like the Tennessee or Green Bay Jets, not exactly in that same tier, but we'll take it if we can get the targets.
Oh, man. I mean, I look at that and it's like, I don't know if the Jets have seen the Vegas odds for their own team yet, but they should probably take that $10 million and roll it forward to next year. You know what I mean? It's like, it would be a disservice to Jamison Crowder to keep him around through camp just to teach these guys and then cut him. But I mean, it's a ruthless game. So that's what I would do. I would say, hey, you know what? Thanks for stopping by and teaching Elijah Moore how to do what you do. But we'll take that $10 million and we'll spend it next year on something that we need that's going to be here for the future. So I'm right with you on that. And I think you can take advantage of that in best ball right now if you think they're going to do that, because, as we see, it's like now is the time to play those hunches, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh man, what got you, Gary? But yeah, I mean, it certainly edges to get in best ball. I'll start with at least the whole Naji Harris thing. I mean, Naji Harris right now, in best balls is starting to go in the middle of the second round. But I don't think it stops there. I honestly think just with the role that he's slated to get. I mean, what's behind him is Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell. I think he could find his way into maybe the back end of the first round, which I think might be aggressive, but I think that it's just gonna, there's a lot of time between now and week 1. So people are going to be, shooting guys at draft boards. Ian, what do you think about Naji Harris, at least at that price point? Are you in on Naji Harris there coming up from either the middle of the second and forward into the first?
Yeah, it's right where I have him, RB14. I remember being like a lot higher than most right after the draft, and I guess everyone's starting to come around to the idea that, yes, offensive lines matter, but we really overrate our ability in freaking May to judge how good they're going to be. And really the way we grade them and rank them isn't really, all that correlated with fantasy success. Last year, PFF's bottom 5 graded run blocking offensive lines produced 4 top 24 PPR RBs. The top 5 blocking offensive lines also produce 4 top 24 PPR RBs. It's a silly game we play, but if you're a running back that catches passes, you so easily overcome like anything resembling a bad offensive line that it just doesn't really matter, man. And again, just taking a discount on a guy like Naji, who just has this touch ceiling that honestly it could rival like McCaffrey, Saquon. Like he has that in his potential range of outcomes. And that's why he didn't land in my tier 3. Like with some luck, these dudes could bounce up a couple tiers. I have him behind, Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor. We're just a little more sure of what those guys are bringing to the table. But give me Naji over Clyde, over DeAndre Swift, and over Chris Carson, just because, I think if we had to guess like how many touches Naji's going to have this year, a lot of smart people will probably be saying a number associated with the 3.
Are you, Kevin, you're muted.
Oh, 3. I was going to say 3 Bills sounds good to me.
Are you nervous at all? Like my biggest concern going into this was like the Steelers offensive line, and I can't tell if it was overblown in my head or not. Like from a pure football perspective, not fantasy. Like I thought it was a strange thing. Like they're a rebuilding team, but then I realized maybe they're not a rebuilding team and they just needed somebody strong to be a part of their running game. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a James Conner truther. I can't tell.
I mean, James Conner, I'm looking at it right now. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry last year. I know that's not the best stat to judge running backs on, but I feel like in hindsight, everyone just pretends like Pittsburgh could not move the ball like the entire season, no matter what. This was still the 12th ranked scoring offense. Like, yeah, they had a rough go of it down the road, but I mean, still a team that put up 37 points in their final game. Like I know Washington shut them down in prime time, and we were all kind of mocking them for that. Didn't have, they didn't look as good down the stretch, but they're a little bit like the Seahawks in that regard. Like just because they ended last season bad, I don't think we need to assume they're going to be the worst version of we saw last year, and not maybe something in between that and the better spot. So Ben, I mean, people were having fun with his throws in practice today, but like his arm was never completely washed last year. I think it was more of an issue of him not being as willing to, stand in the pocket with 4 dudes draped over him and trying to, still take these hits and make these throws. So, hey, if they come back with the exact same, offensive plan they had for the final 2 months of last year, it's probably not going to work. But, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I think Pittsburgh's, a smart enough organization to not do that. So I hope they just get him with some more play action, man. They only had 66 total play action passes last year. Like the Jaguars were second to last, but they still had over 120 such plays. So for me, Ben, he hasn't hit that like 2015, end of 2014 Peyton Manning. Like he just cannot throw the ball any more point. They got receivers everywhere. Now they got Naji. The offensive line, I mean, it's scary when they haven't put any more resources in it. But we did see, the Rams from 2019 to 2020 kind of have a similar thing where they just, kind of brought up from within a little bit, didn't make any big moves, were able to improve it. So it's a little bit of a reach, but I mean, we shouldn't assume their offensive line is going to be just the shit of the entire league. I know they had a bad run blocking grade, but even if you look at pressure under 2.5 seconds, like where you're kind of removing the whole issue where Ben just gets it out quick, they were still like a top 13 offensive line. So I think it's a little bit overblown. And again, I just think like much like defense and offensive line fantasy football, they matter. It's just our ability to kind of discern how they relate to certain players. I think is what gets overblown.
Yeah, I love how you brought up the Seahawks there, because I think they're kind of in the same boat. Like the Seahawks had to use that like dreaded third void year to bring Chris Carson back just so they could, because they're trying to win right now, you know. And I think the Steelers are in the same situation where you look at drafting a running back early, like from an analytical standpoint, we always say don't do it. You know what I mean? But if you're in a situation like they are, where their quarterback is getting old, Juju Smith-Schuster, you convinced him to come back for 1 year, but he's probably gone. You know what I mean? Like you got all these kind of aging pieces, and you want to make one last run at it for Big Ben. Like that is the time where you go out and get that luxury weapon to, you know, try and make a run for Big Ben. And then, you know, when the Big Ben era is over, then you kind of, you know, hopefully build the lineup and shift more towards running. But I think, you know, a lot of these teams that are in this situation where you have to win right now, like they looked at it and said, we need this one piece to win right now. So, I mean, for me, if they're going to go out and do that, I have all the confidence in the world that Naji Harris is going to get 1 million touches, because they're putting a lot of stock in him in a team that, you know, they're not in a situation to do anything except for try and win that division right away.
Man, winning that division is a tough proposition. Like, I'm getting off topic, but yes, I think Najee's fully worth it. I have to ask the contrarian question.
Yeah, whether they can do it or not, I don't know. You know what I mean? But they're clearly trying. You know, it's like some teams like the Lions and the Texans are clearly saying, you know what, we obviously know we're not winning. But the Steelers, based on who they drafted, they're going. You know, they're trying.
Yeah, for sure. So let's shift over to, you know, the other big time, you know, Kyle Pitts going to the Falcons. I mean, we all know about the narrative about rookie tight ends. So, you know, Ian, at what's he going, about 4th round right now, maybe going into the 5th round. I mean, knowing what we know about tight ends, yeah, is Kyle Pitts a unicorn? Probably. I mean, you ask anybody on Twitter, they're going to tell you he stole the virtues. But I mean, realistically, and now we get the Julio Jones wrinkle in here too, where could possibly be losing him, and then it's pretty much a 2-man game, and then maybe Russell Gage on the side. But Kyle Pitts, man, with Julio, without Julio, I think he's still, I mean, got 100 target. You know, I think that's a pretty solid number for him. I mean, are you really comfortable taking him in the 4th round? I mean, that seems aggressive, but you know, if you're betting on an outlier, then maybe it's not so aggressive.
Yeah, 4 maybe a little high, but I think just his positional standing I'm fine with. I mean, Kelsey 1, obviously, Waller, Kittle, Hawkinson. I think Pitts slides in right there as his number 5. You know, I would take him over Mark Andrews, who really took a step back last year. I wasn't too sure what that was all about, but even more target competition in the league's most run-heavy offense. You know, there's just a decent chance that we see Mark Andrews not flirt with these 8 to 10 touchdowns every single season. And Dallas Goedert, as long as Zach Ertz remains on this team for some freaking reason and these trade rumors continue to amount to nothing, then it's going to be hard to move Goddard up. Until then, I am going to keep Pitts ahead of him. But yeah, he's a tight end, but I mean, he should honestly push to be called a wide receiver like Jimmy Graham did in like
Jimmy Graham,
24. Just go make more money, man. It's so stupid. Like Travis Kelce, his contract right now pays him less per year than like the Chiefs originally signed Sammy Watkins for. It just doesn't make sense, man. And like he already lined up in the slot or out wide on 42% of his career snaps of Florida. Even Dan Mullen said, you know, he's an elite wide receiver and an elite tight end. They drafted him at number 4 to be everything, man. And like honestly, the one tight end room in the entire league that I think he could go into and probably be the best blocker already might just be Atlanta, because Hayden Hurst was that bad as a blocker last year. So he's the number 4 overall pick. I understand it was only Gronk and Evan Ingram to be top 12 rookie tight ends ones, you know what I'm saying, since 2010. But yeah, Pitts checks every single box as the guy we want to make an exception to the rule. Don't draft rookie tight ends. So I'm all about it, man. I think he's going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the rookie tight ends, like the biggest problem that they have coming up is that it's kind of a 2-pronged position nowadays. And a lot of guys come into the room, like Jimmy Graham, you talked about, he should probably be cut. When Cole Kmet comes in, Jimmy Graham's not going to be the guy you ask to block. You know, it's going to be Cole Kmet. Same with Goddard. Like, you're not going to ask Zach Ertz to block. Even if Goddard's better at catching balls than Ertz right now, Goddard was like the number 2 rated run blocker like a year ago or so. So that's the issue that most rookie tight ends run into. But Kyle Pitts is never going to be that guy that you say, oh, yeah, well, we'll have Hayden Hurst run the routes and we'll have Kyle block for a couple of years before. You know, it's like that's never going to happen there. That's what happened with Ingram, too. Ingram's, you know, 6'3", 234, runs a 4.42. You would never say, oh yeah, Red Ellison's going to run the routes and we'll have Ingram here, put his hand in the dirt. So it's like all those rules about rookie tight ends goes out the window when you draft a friggin' absolute, you draft a Megatron only a little slower at 4, it's like, that's why I have people like, oh yeah, rookie tight end. It's like, dude, this guy isn't even a tight end. And, so I'm right with you on that, man. I'm not going to fade him over that kind of thing, Man,
come on.
I'm just nervous about it. I'm excited, man. Like, we're all excited, but like, oh God, the one rule that you have is don't draft rookie tight ends. Like, it's so
Rules out.
Throw it out.
Get
the
him
window,
out.
Let it go on this one. It's the perfect storm. That it's like I said. If he were going to, I guess there were a handful of teams where if he was there and they had just I can't even think of a spot. Maybe Anthony Ferkser, who can't block at all. But I mean, it's just you would never use him in that situation. So I think he's just going to go right out wide. And my only concern is that maybe they say, "Oh yeah, you're Julio now," and he becomes the next Michael Thomas, who is tight end eligible for 1 year and loses it. I mean, I doubt that. They got to have him line up as some tight end. But I mean, I guess that's the only concern I have, really.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know like what guys would really be rising above him. I could see slipping Pitts down, maybe like again, I mentioned, Andrews Goddard. If you wanted to move them ahead of him, I wouldn't say you're crazy or anything. But from the other group, like Noah Fant still has Locker, Bridgewater, Robert Tonyan could be losing freaking Rodgers, Logan Thomas, new QB, Tyler Higbee, new QB, Irv Smith could easily finish like 4th on the Vikings in targets. Ferkser, who knows if he's actually going to take on a larger role or just kind of do what he did last year. Adam Troutman is someone I'm high on, but we don't really know what's going on there either. If Taysom wins the job, we're screwed. So tight end, man, as much as we can always kind of talk ourselves into a guy with enough, information, the Patriots, Gerald Everett, Evan Ingram come back here. Like we do this every year in the offseason, and then we come back around and we're like, okay, get one of the top 3 guys and you'll be happy. If you didn't, you're probably going to be upset. So Pitts, like, again, I think he's fine tight end 4 to tight end 7 range. Have I gotten a bunch of them in best ball drafts? No, because he's going at his ceiling right now, and I'm not going out of my way to really get anybody in that range of tight ends. So ranking fair. Do you need to be reaching on the guy? That's what I would say. No.
Yeah, completely fair. Those tight ends. I'm just trying to think like that. That's the big thing for me is Pitts versus Hawkinson, because Hawkinson, who else are going to throw to? I mean, there's like 140, 150 targets that can conceivably go to him. If he only catches, maybe 60 something percent, you're talking what, 90, 95 catches. I mean, that's just bonkers. But let's go back to the rookies here and a battle here between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I mean, we know Trevor Lawrence is going to be playing 17 games. We know Zach Wilson's going to be playing 17 games. The ambiguity of Fields and Lance, and we just talked about it a little bit here, but draft one right now. If you've got to pin your hopes on one of these guys, Justin Fields or Trey Lance, who you got, Ian?
Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan picked Trey Lance, so I got to pick Trey Lance. Just too much could go wrong in Chicago, unfortunately. And by too much, I mean Andy Dalton, apparently. The fact that this is even an issue is absolutely ridiculous. I think we all really liked, what the Bears did in the draft, realizing this is a win now year, and then for them to not even leave it open to a competition. That's the thing. I mean, people would be complaining if they were like, may the best man win, like, and they'd be saying, why not Justin Fields right away? But for the fact that they really are naming Dalton like the QB1 starter is just ridiculous. Matt Nagy says that Dalton's a starter, and then the next breath brings up how Dalton's basically a rookie too because he doesn't know their playbook. It's like, what have you guys been watching? Does he just like know Dalton was in a couple Pro Bowls as a replacement like a freaking half decade ago? So that just hasn't made any sense to me the way they've butchered that so far. So I will happily take Lance over Fields and Dynasty Land. I was thinking maybe Fields just in 2021 again, only because of I think he might start before Trey Lance. It could be a couple, maybe 2 months before Lance gets out there in like a worst case scenario. But the more I think about it, like who do we want on our team by week 10? Trey Lance over any of them. So to me, might as well go get Lance first. Because I mean, Fields, neither of these guys, you can find another quarterback before. So get, your top 10, top 12 guy first, and then come back, get Trey Lance a couple rounds for everyone else.
Yeah, I just want to say that when you said Trey Lance, Gary's face just lit up like like a Christmas tree there.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
and there's no Trey Lance slander. I'm in Fargo, so I can't talk about Carson Wentz. I can't talk about Trey Lance. I got a window right here. I'm going to get shit thrown through it. So I can't talk any slander.
Podcast. Yes, but I like Justin Fields more this year.
What?
Yeah, I think that they're going to do everything they can to give Jimmy his chance to get as much trade value and all that stuff because he's still under contract after this year. I also think that Justin Fields was the number 2 consensus quarterback, like no question going into this draft. The Niners saw something else they liked. The Jets wanted to go with somebody that doesn't drink alcohol. Like I get it, do what you want to do, but I thought that Justin Fields was the QB2 going into this draft, and they traded up to get him. I don't care about the red rifle, Kevin, the red rifle, and Andy Dalton. I called him the Red Rocket.
Yeah. I do like every article. I'm with you.
Yeah. You have Allen Robinson, who is a target machine. You know that you have Mooney. I want to see what like Nagy can do when he's not stuck with Trubisky. Like there are things to like in Chicago. They have a good defense. I feel like they're kind of like a Niners light version type thing because of their defense and some of the pieces that they have. But we'll see. I mean, if Cole Kmet takes a step forward all of a sudden and Justin Fields is playing over under 11 games, I actually think I told someone the other day, I think it's over under 14 games that he'll be in there by week 3 because Ryan Pace gets it. Like if he just doesn't start him and they demolish, like I think he's going to be playing for his job. Anyway, I like Fields. I think he's awesome. I think they have weapons, but once Lance comes in, I get he's going to be fantastic, but we're talking about redraft, and in redraft, I'm going to go with Fields late, but I wouldn't fault you if you took Lance late. I just think he's going to clog up your roster for a lot longer than Fields will.
I love that you bring up that Zach Wilson like doesn't drink alcohol and stuff because Kevin and I were just talking before this about how we like project his career path to be like to start out well, become like a big guy in New York, and then all of a sudden like marry like Nicki Minaj or something, and then it just goes off the rails completely. Like
team no sex is out the door.
Yeah, just the Russell Wilson corollary, marry a pop star, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is sex and alcohol.
He's they'll certainly give him every freaking chance there. To me, like he screams bust the most out of the first rounders, but I'm done, really putting myself definitively against any quarterback until we see them take at least preseason snaps, because we've heard Daniel Jones, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert most recently. We've heard people write these guys off before they've even taken a snap over the past 2 years. And as we found out with early career Josh Allen, even rookie year Daniel Jones, you don't need to be a good real life quarterback to be a great fantasy one potentially. So, for Zach Wilson, hey, I don't think he's probably going to be good this year. I think the level of competition is huge. I think he's going to have a horrendous time behind that offensive line, which, while, they've put some pieces in it over the past few years, was still one of the worst units in the league last year, even kind of adjusting for the time. So rough year for Zach, but hey, maybe we'll figure it out. The wide receiver room has been remade, man. Again, if we can get Elijah out there, Mims stays a little healthy. Corey Davis is, not the number 5 overall pick good, but he's still a very good, number 2. Yes. Probably shouldn't be a number 1, but Corey Davis is fine. I was, I want to let people know I was, not saying Corey Davis is better than Julio. That is objectively false. But, man, you look at every efficiency stat last year, PFF receiving grade, yards per out run, yards per catch, and all that. Like, they were almost the exact same players. So, obviously, Julio's, I think, demanding a bit more attention from defenses than Corey Davis. Just realized Corey Davis had a really good year last year.
Can we title this episode Ian Hartitz comes on and teaches us how Corey Davis is better than Julio?
Corey Davis is better than Julio Jones.
But with all those words also included.
It's like
people will love it.
Oh, my God. I'm getting just killed on Twitter all day long for saying Joe Mixon is a better pick in fantasy than Jonathan Taylor. And people are just like incredulous about it. And I'm like, Taylor averaged 0.25 more PPR points per game than Mixon last year. That's the difference. Nyheim Hines is still there. Gio's gone. Oh, no, but everyone's an offensive line expert. Who cares that Carson Wentz is now the quarterback in Philly? Like, what could go wrong there? I mean, people maybe Colts fans are just, still thinking that they kind of had these great teams over the past half decade, and it wasn't just Andrew Luck doing his best Superman impression every single Sunday. So Jonathan Taylor, great player, better than Joe Mixon in real life. But my goodness, people, there's a 0% chance that Marlon Mack takes the first snap of the 2021 season in the backfield. It happened last year. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor, but like seriously, that's what we're looking at, man.
Dude, I actually was going to bring that up later because I just wrote an article on Joe Mixon. I'm going through it, and it's like all the knocks that you had on Joe Mixon, the ones that people knock on him for every year, that's all kind of out of the window now. It's like, first of all, Gio Bernard's gone. I mean, that's pretty much 75% of the battle, right? Like Gio was the one coming in, taking those pass snaps. That was the only thing that held him back. And he still was one of the very few guys to finish as like a top 10 running back with less than 50 catches or so. I mean, it only happens with these elite rushers and Vixen, a couple of years ago. And then it's like, you have Jonah Williams coming back, the tackle who was picked 11th overall, missed the entire season in 2019, only played 10 games last year. Michael Jordan's working out with Michael Jordan is working out with Willie Anderson, like he's like a legend. They got Bobby Hart's out, Riley Reeves coming in. They picked Carmen Jackson in the second round, a tackle, and he's going to play guard. And apparently, I just learned this, that the offensive line coach Turner was just doing a horrible job, not teaching technique at all. So they brought back their old coach, David Pollock. I mean, I'm like wheels up Joe Mixon fan crew. So I'm glad he came up here because I'm glad he came up here because like I'm right with you on that, man. Like Joe Mixon, besides the guys that are going to catch 100 passes, like there's no reason he can't be right up there with the next tier, with the Zeke Elliott's, and I love Zeke, but it's like, he could be right there catching balls. I mean, he caught more he was on pace to catch like 50, 60 last year before he got hurt.
People keep throwing out like the Michael Scott, like I'm ready to be hurt again, Jeff. When has Mixon ever been this like awful player, man? Okay, like he had like the Tyler Lockett syndrome last year where I guess when you have one like week winning performance, then people just want that every week and they can't deal with it. Otherwise, 2019 he was the RB13 overall, 2018 he was the RB10. Like the offense is better. The offensive line could approach mediocrity. Like they've at least invested enough in that over the past few years. I would like to think the touchdowns could go up with Joe Burrow there now. And yeah, exactly. The one problem we had, Giovanni Bernard, is now gone. So if you really want to just say Joe Mixon's injury prone, like what, based on this 1 year, he played in 44 or 48 games his first 3 years in the league. Like chill out. Dalvin Cook's more injury prone than Joe Mixon. Like, come on.
Never played Dalvin Cook has yet to play a full season, people. Like, I mean, if you're going to take Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley just tore his ACL, the dreaded high ankle sprain with CMC. I mean, we could do it with everybody. Like, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a fortune teller. So as long as they're healthy at the start of the season, I'm picking them. So
Derrick Henry 101, Julio over Corey Davis. Or sorry, Corey Davis over Julio. All right, we're good.
Auden Tate 103, AJ Brown 104.
But yeah, just clip that, and we'll blast that out there. Get a lot of
we'll clip that out. It'll be on all week. Don't worry. We'll tag you. Your mentions will just get you'll get 2 likes. So let's stay with the Bengals here. I mean, we're talking about Joe Burrow. Let's talk about Jamar Chase. So, we saw the Bengals last year, 100 targets for Boyd, for Higgins, for dusty ass AJ Green. He's done now. Throw in Jamar Chase now. You're probably looking at the same thing. So, how are you valuing Jamar Chase with Higgins, with Boyd? I mean, probably going to be there to be the alpha, but year 1, 2021, I mean, Jamar Chase has to kind of work his way in, right?
Yeah, I have them all right next to each other, man. Like AJ Green's 108 targets wherever he had. They're right there for him. I mean, it just makes sense that they're going to be fairly evenly distributed. I do have Chase ahead of Higgins, ahead of Boyd. I have them all in the same tier, though, where, it's basically like there's volume and or QB concerns. And that's the only reason why they're that low. I have them, next to the Buccaneers guys, next to the Rams guys, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith around there. So Chase, Look, again, just like Pitts, when you use that high draft capital on someone, particularly when we throw in the Burrow just recognition factor, I think it makes sense to buy into the hype. I mean, for him to truly, man, like outperform Justin freaking Jefferson, on the same team, even with Chase getting like more attention. I was just watching Chase versus AJ Terrell highlights from that, his last game, the national championship, and just absolutely cooking like the now Falcons starting cornerback. So Chase, I think, is worthy of the hype. Maybe I'm just, I'm not saying the same shit for Chase and Pitts. Maybe I'm, being a mark and falling into the offseason trap myself. But, I would say that he is like Pitts, where I don't necessarily disagree with the hype. At the same time, I'm not getting him in a lot of these fantasy drafts because I'm just, I'm not going super far out of my way to get the guy. I admit that he's a top 30 receiver already. That's great. Usually there's someone out there that loves him more than me, though.
Yeah, I run the same problem. My pragmatism gets in the way of my hype sometimes, It's
Stupid
like
pragmatism.
you want to get excited, dude, but you got to be real. You got to be real about it. It's like you got to take the sure thing most times. So, yeah. I don't know, Gary, you getting any Chase in your best balls?
Not really, man. I'm so weird about rookie wide receivers. I'd much rather go after like a Devonta. I'm going to go with somebody that's kind of approximate there. I want somebody, if it's going to be a rookie, that's going to get a clear cut, like 20% probably plus target share. And then like, it's hard to come by with as a rookie, right? But I think like Devonta's there, and I don't actually know if any of the wide receiver that's a rookie is going to get there. So Chase is fun to own. He is always going to be that guy that I feel like the Bengals should have gone with Penei Sewell, and it just annoys me to no end. So.
Yeah, that's a battle I was fighting for a couple months here. Just, and that they're going to be invariably linked together, for forever. Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. What if Detroit took, or what if the Bengals took Sewell? What if Detroit took Chase? Whatever the case may be. But yeah, I mean, right now, the way it's stacking up, I mean, healthy Joe Burrow, we got that vote of confidence there from Adam Schefter tweeting that out about Joe Burrow being good to go, all systems go. I could see them being the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC. Just bad defense, throwing the ball all over the field, healthy Burrow. Hopefully he doesn't have to run for his life, and Jackson Cartman can be at least plug some of that leaking water on the offensive line there. And Jonah Williams is Jonah Williams. Hopefully he can, stop that too. But let's get into some of the other wide receivers here. And we have a little more ambiguity, but Ian, I believe you're a Devonta Smith guy. I mean, looking at, the Philadelphia Eagles, you had Jalen Reagor, who was just, the hype was pretty overblown for Jalen Reagor, and the opportunity that was pretty much on the table for him. Got hurt, didn't really realize some of that, but now we got the Slim Reaper Devonta Smith in there. Getting the ball from Jalen Hurts. Devonta Smith, is he? I feel like he's more of a sneaky option if you want to go with some of that youth and redraft to get that 20% target share to be kind of the apple of Jalen Hurts' eye. What do you think?
Yeah, the question is what being the apple of Jalen Hurts' eye is worth, because, man, I love it in fantasy, and we should love him in fantasy because Jalen Hurts loves running around. But the potential for him to be this like Taysom Hill-esque kind of leech for the entire offense, I think, is going a little bit under the radar. Like Hurts, his 16-game stretch of rush attempts was on pace to be the most by a quarterback in NFL history. Like when you're doing that, it's just problematic for everyone else. There's a reason why Lamar Jackson, struggles to really enable anybody else in the offense. Like when one player is that involved in everything you do, it's just going to be tough on the teammates. So Hurts last year, man, it here we go. It hurt to watch him throw sometimes. But yeah, truly fourth worst PFF passing grade. Only Sam Darnold, Dwayne Haskins, and Jake Luton were worse. And I understand that, one metric, just like any PFF grade, isn't worth the entire picture. But, you look at him in those games, and I'm happy that he went over 300 yards twice. We don't really care how he gets the yards in fantasy as long as he goes out and gets them. They, other than, I wouldn't exactly call Joe Flacco someone we should really be worrying about taking the job. Although we did outplay Sam Darnold last year, I do think that Hurts, should be projected to start 17 games, and he'll be fine. But can he really enable, Devonta Smith? Maybe. I'm a little worried about, just Devontae necessarily dominating target share in this offense that we just don't really know what it's going to look like. But yeah, I mean, Devontae, Right now, the disparity between him and Jalen Reagor may be a little bit high. I certainly think Devontae is going to, be the leader of the pack. But, we got the Jalen Reagor slot offseason storyline going on now. I just think this passing game and really the Eagles offense as a whole, I'm just kind of staying away from it. Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, I think they're being valued pretty high as it is.
Yeah, you made a good point, especially with Miles Sanders there. Like, I believe it was Andrew Erickson, who's with
PFF. It's my guy.
That's right. Yeah, Andrew Erickson. So he wrote an article that I think it showed up on Fantasy Data, and it was a correlation between passing quarterbacks and running backs success, and it showed a pretty obvious decrease in targets for running backs when they have a mobile quarterback, which makes a lot of sense. If you're Drew Brees and the pocket collapses, you're going to look for somebody that's a superior athlete, get them the ball so that they can run with it. If you're Kyler Murray and you see the running back standing there 5 feet away, you're going to say, go block somebody because I'm the superior athlete. You know what I mean? So I think just naturally, in our mind, we pictured these guys throw it to the running back less, and then your boy Erickson there already pretty much statistically proved it. So I'm definitely a little worried about Miles Sanders, at least because Jalen Hurts, So it's definitely a concern for the wide receivers. Yeah, it's going to come down to how much they mesh, but we've seen the numbers on the running backs. So,
do you think it's 15 spots different between Chase and Devontae?
I'd say
wide receiver 26 versus wide receiver 41 right now.
41. Wow,
that seems way too low. Miles Sanders is running back 17.
I guess I am.
I think he's just in a massive tier. So he's wide receiver 17 ahead of Miles Sanders. Sorry, is running back 17 ahead of CH, Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, James Robinson, ETN. I don't know. Like, I feel like 17 to 21. That feels like the right range. Sanders, CH, Jacobs, Montgomery, Carson, and then. I don't know. Like, I think that Devonta is going to be a good draft value. I think that Goddard's going to be a good draft value. Probably, you could probably get him at tight end 10 to 12, and he's probably going to get closer to tight end 7, 8. So I'm not low on him. I'm actually I like what they're going to provide with that offense.
Yeah,
I'm just the contrarian tonight. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why.
No, it's good. You gotta have both sides. And where Miles Sanders is going with that list of guys you gave. Miles Sanders clearly isn't going as high as he was last year. I think some of that's pretty much baked in at this point. I'm one of the guys that does like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to bounce back a little bit. So maybe I would consider him over Miles Sanders. Chris Carson. I've never been a Chris Carson guy, but Pete Carroll is such a my player guy that apparently he can fumble 11 times in the last couple of years and it's not a problem at all. So they're not going to pick up Rashad Penny. So I guess I would even consider Carson, even though I've never been a huge fan. But I'm not going to go down and grab Josh Jacobs with Miles Sanders. Not with Kenyon Drake there. So I think the ADP 17, that's fine. Fine with me.
But I love Devonta Smith. I just got to say that. I think he's going to. I think he's going to be the number one rookie wide receiver. I think he's going to be the guy that you have him on your roster and you're like, wow, I ended up getting him late in drafts and I'm able to start him as a back-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 with lots of upside.
Yeah. As far as some rookies, let's talk about some of the ones that are, we talk about the cream of the crop already, but let's talk about some of the overvalued guys. We've got our guys with high capital, you're talking about Kadarius Toney, maybe throw Jalen Waddle in there, but Ian, who are you kind of shying away from as far as, rookies, maybe some higher profile guys for redraft?
Some of the Trey Sermon info coming out is interesting. With Jeff Wilson going down, it seemed like a pretty good thing. But then reports immediately come out that, Wayne Gallman is set in stone as their number 2. And it just does make me continue to think that Raheem Mostert is going to be the pretty clear, I think, lead back, at least for this season. He ran for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in the NFC Championship that occurred, it was in 2000. That happened
Don't remind me, Ian, dude.
I'm a Packer fan. Annual celebration of the Packers being knocked out of the playoffs. It's a joyous occasion in all households outside of Kevin's and Eddie Packers.
Yeah. There's not enough Tanqueray to drown that out.
Happened 18 months ago, and just like honestly, we talked similar thing with Jalen Hurts, like Trey Lance, if he's out there soon enough, which again I'm basing a lot of this around thinking that he will be out there sooner rather than later. He could be a problem for this running back room because all of a sudden he's taking a chunk of the rushing yards, and they already don't really throw their running backs much. And I really wouldn't expect that to go up with Lance by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, man, I think, I love Trey Sermon, my Buckeye guy that, 300 plus yards against Northwestern, another great game against Clemson. He's talented as hell. I'm happy he did rise up and end up being the RB4 that I think he deserved to be drafted as in this class. Just might be someone in Dynasty you look a little higher on than redraft this year. I would say Kadarius Toney is someone I'm just not willing to buy because I get the draft capital is there, but like, where are the targets coming from? And then we have to trust Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett to figure this out. Like, it's been crazy to me. Like, not that everyone's all over Daniel Jones, but he got a pretty solid pass for like being horrendous last year. That dude had 12 total touchdowns in 14 games. Like Dak Prescott scored more touchdowns than Daniel Jones last year. And that's not a joke. Like, it is ridiculous, man. And really the only good thing he did all year was run. Like we laughed about when he went, 70 yards against the Eagles and fell on his face. But like the only reason why Jones was kind of in streamer articles, week to week was because he was actually running more often, but it was just never worked in the offense. Like Kadarius Toney, if he was coming in to be the guy, that'd be one thing, but Kenny Galladay's still there. Sterling Shepard's still there. We don't even know if Tony's going to be in 3 wide receiver sets to start the year. He should be. I don't know why you draft him in the first round to not do it. But again, in this crowded offense that figures to run solely through Saquon Barkley, when they can, I just don't think it's worth really betting on him to figure it out. It's been surprising to see how much more NFL teams like Tony than, kind of the fantasy and draft community. So I'm not out on him as a player necessarily. I just don't know where the volume's coming from. And kind of same thing for Rashad Bateman, even like Rondale Moore, man. I just think some of these wide receivers, we love the prospects, but once you kind of look at the actual team situation they're in, it's not quite as pretty as we might have hoped.
Right. It's like you take like Kadarius Toney, you have Jason Garrett who tried to use Evan Ingram like Jason Witten, and then you give him Kadarius Toney and say, yeah, be creative with him. Like, yeah, right, dude. So I'm skeptical there as well. And then you talk about Raheem Mostert, like you don't even have to go back 18 months. Pretty sure first week of the season last year against Arizona, he registered the fastest play in the entire league last year, running for like 76 yards. And then week 2 against the Jets, he registered the second fastest play that was recorded by Next Gen Stats. So, I mean, it's like, do we just think that's done now? I mean, do you stop being the very fastest guy in the league all of a sudden because it's, 12 months later? So I don't know. In best ball, at least, I like Raheem Mostert a lot. I mean, any guy that can do that, I'm all about that. That's a 76-yard touchdown. What is that in 76-yard catch against the Jets too? That's like a 15-point play, man.
15-point play at close to 23 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'll take that.
It's him and Tyreek Hill. Those are the only guys that have hit 23 Next Gen Stats. Crazy.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, back-to-back weeks. It's like, yeah, sure for sure.
Fun random what if. Y'all should look at Raheem Mostert's injury history since he's been in the league because he's older. Look at all the most random injuries that he's had. And you're like, this guy could have been something special for years.
Oh, he's a young 29.
Yeah, he is.
It's crazy.
Like Adam Thielen, he didn't start till he was playing special teams. He was like 25 or whatever. Yeah.
Damn,
I had that argument. I had that argument with somebody, Ian. You like this one? I'm like touting Zeke, right? And somebody's like, "Oh yeah, but he's got all these carries," and they bring up Dalvin Cook. I'm like, dude, do you think it's better that Dalvin Cook tore his ACL and missed games every season? He was good thing he tore his ACL to save all those carries for now. Like let's be realistic here. The fact that Zeke has never gotten hurt has been his biggest problem. Is that what people are saying?
He finally missed. I think, last year was his first missed game due to injury. And he actually came back. I remember he had that Eagles game. I think he set like the 2020 single game high mark for like most forced missed tackles on runs. He got, like the fumbles and some of the drops, particularly early in the season, were bad. He certainly did not play up to the top 5 standing. You would hope that someone with his contract would, but some of the slander got a little bit out of control, man. Like this offense was so bad. And it wasn't just because of Zeke. I mean, not not having your starting tackles. Zach Martin was out for 6 games. They didn't really have superstars at the other offensive line spots. I mean, look, the Cowboys offense was as bad as they were, without Dak because of the offensive line, not because of Ezekiel Elliott. So 100% back in buying him. He was the RB3 before, Dak went out. Come on.
And if you look at the CDC, they actually, at the very bottom of the symptoms, if you look, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, but it says that one of the main symptoms are fumbles and drops, especially in the early part of the season. So,
there we go.
Trust the science, man.
Yeah, I mean, Fauci, he said, he's like, don't worry about that for 2021.
I feel like this has just turned into like a pro Cam Newton podcast all of a sudden.
We need that here in New England.
Oh,
okay, I got a question for Ian, if that's okay.
No, it's not. Dude, why are you asking?
I don't know. So I want to know, so we're in dynasty mode. We're like transitioning to redraft and best ball. Like, who are like 2 sleepers at any position that are on your speed dial that you're just watching throughout the season for your sleepers? I don't even want to say deep sleeper because I think rookie deep sleeper is a stupid thing to say when it comes to redraft.
I think one guy, again, if we can just work on buying people at their floor as opposed to their ceiling. We talked about him a little briefly, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, is someone that is just falling down the ranks when his situation is better this year than it was last year. The guy that took his touches, and honestly, like Le'Veon, I think that whole thing gets overrated a little bit. Like, I know I've seen the splits, but really, like, Le'Veon was more or less kind of splitting things with Darrell Williams, and then it was becoming this 3-back thing. He didn't, like, Clyde started every game he was in last year. We never saw like Le'Veon completely relegate Clyde to the bench. It was more he had that, brutal he had that illness where they said he was active and then he didn't play, and that pissed everyone off. And then he got hurt at the end of the year. But before Le'Veon got there, I believe he was 4th in the NFL in touches. And okay, he's not going to get the 100 targets that we would hope someone with his ability would. But my goodness, man, if you look at these were redraft ADP, so a little different, but the 4 running backs last year that were top 24 before the season started that have fallen double-digit spots now ahead of this year: Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Mark Ingram, which we all understand why, new teams, worse offenses, what have you. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire down 13 spots. And again, it's a better overall situation. So the whole, man, people just want to say, oh, he can't score on the goal line. He was 2 for 10 inside the 5-yard line. The rest of the Chiefs running backs were 1 for 6. Like, it hasn't been a great offensive line. They helped fix it. He's getting those carries again, and he'll probably have more success. So you can go back, look through the plays like I did. It's not like they were just gaping holes and Clyde's falling over his feet. So it's a silly excuse that I'm happy people are making because it's causing the Chiefs, undisputed RB1, to somehow be really undervalued in fantasy leagues of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, ask John Daigle about that mentor narrative with Darrell Williams.
Yeah,
that's that's one of my favorite things from last year. But I mean, keep in mind he was RB11 in weeks 1 through 6, and he only scored 1 touchdown. So I mean, come on, like CH is like the post hype sleeper of our dreams right now. Yeah, he's going to the beginning of the 3rd.
I was pissed. I was so pissed when the Ravens gave them a tackle. I mean, they're the best team in the league. Why are you I know that Orlando Brown wasn't going to come back, but dude, send him to the Vikings. You know what I mean? Like, don't send him to the Chiefs, man. They have the tackle. They have Joe Tooney coming from the Patriots, man. Line's going to be much better, man. So, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely in on CH at his ADP. So we'll have to see.
Yep, for sure. And then, we'll kind of round this out a little bit with, we're talking about draft capital. So there's a bunch of, lower round guys, and we kind of touched on them a little bit, that are going into good situations. And I'm going to name 2, Michael Carter and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, these are guys that they're going to be those trendy late round guys in redraft. I mean, are these guys, St. Brown and Carter in particular, if you have anybody else you want to throw out there, you can go right ahead. But I mean, are these really sharp, picks where you want to take a Michael Carter, maybe like the 7th round and ride that? You want to take him on St. Brown if you think Detroit's going to throw the ball 600 times because they pretty much have to. I mean, where are you at on these guys and other guys that are maybe lower draft capital that could rise up in redraft?
Yeah, and redraft, I have, Amon-Ra as my wide receiver 5, Michael Carter as my RB5. So I definitely see the allure. And yeah, just in terms of available opportunity, I do give, St. Brown the bump. I talked before about just kind of the issues with Tony Bateman, Rondale Moore a little bit. Like, I just feel like all these other receivers that went early, Dwayne Eskridge is going to be the wide receiver 3 in Seattle. We'll see if it's even a full-time role. Tutu Atwell, the Rams have like 3 or 4 guys that are going to kind of be rotating at that wide receiver 3 spot. Terrace Marshall could end up being 4th in targets. So I fully see that Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't the most talented out of these guys, but almost similar to different position, but those tight ends we were talking about, it's just there weren't that many great landing spots, I think, for this kind of second tier of wide receivers. So I do see why he's rising up the ranks a little bit. I do think, Trevor Lawrence is the guy that I think was everyone's consensus rookie QB1, but the more craziness that goes on with Jacksonville, like, are we going to freaking see Tim Tebow being like a Taysom Hill, taking away snaps from, Trevor Lawrence? Like, man, the big thing that all this tells me is that Urban Meyer is far more involved in this offense than really any of us anticipated. I thought he was going to be more of a CEO role, but no, he wants to. He waited this long to get in the NFL.
Exact opposite.
He's going to Chip Kelly the shit out of this offense.
He's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And I will say this, man, as much as Urban won at Ohio State, like, there's a reason why Ryan Day was brought in to kind of rejuvenate that passing game. Man, in 2016, by the end of it, it was like he's just calling JT up the middle 20 times a game because he couldn't even get passing concepts. I'm assuming that's what Darrell Bevell is there for. He's going to, be the pass game coordinator, I think. Like, I'd hope so, because the way it's going, man, way too much Urban, like, offensive minded being involved in Trevor Lawrence's future. Like, is Trevor Lawrence now just going to be behind a shitty offensive line with DJ Chark and Marvin Jones out in 2 wide receiver sets and ETN just getting these like shitty gadget plays that everybody can see coming from a mile away with Tim Tebow lining up at tight end? Like, this situation could have been, like, on paper, as from it started in February, the possibilities were all so good throughout free agency and the draft and just otherwise, and every single move just keeps coming back wrong. So, Lawrence is someone that, hey, if he is as good as everyone seems to think he is, should be able to overcome it. We certainly saw, Andrew Luck do it with the Colts, for the better part of his career. I just want to shit on the Colts as much as I can this podcast, I guess. That's the route we're going. But, man, it's just, Jacksonville, it was an exciting couple months, and now I feel like we're looking at them potentially staring right at mediocrity again for the next half decade plus.
All right, it all looks like me. It looks like memes. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like Tebow tight end, and oh yeah, Urban Meyer takes. It's like a punchline almost. Like, yeah, Urban Meyer takes a second running back off the board and then makes him a wide receiver. It's like, it literally sounds like jokes we would have made before the draft, and then now it's all like happening in the most terrifying fashion. And I think you said it earlier, but the real victim here is Laviska Shenault. Because it's like when you start using them at, like you said, so you start using all these 2 tight end sets and fullbacks and moving, the ETN to the slot, he's the one that's going to come off the field. It's not going to be Marvin Jones, right? So I don't know. It's brutal, man.
It's such a joke even hearing it.
It's just crazy. So
negative A. Visca is like the stuff of nightmares, I swear to God.
How do you not lose the locker room when you bring in Tebow? It's so nuts. I can't, especially in that like division where like Luck retires early. We'll just leave the outside context of it and say Watson may never play again, and you just got Trevor Lawrence. It's just like in the worst situation.
Yeah, Urban Meyer's like, hold my beer, everything's crumbling around him, and Urban Meyer's like, oh yeah, we'll beat him to the bottom.
Oh, man, I love it. All right. Well, that was pretty much our rookies, and we talked about a lot of them. So, Ian, appreciate you coming on, man. Let us know where we can find everything you're doing, man.
Yeah, PFF.com. I host the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Big offseason series I got going on is basically this 100 questions previewing the fantasy season in 100 days. So I have an article going up every day, corresponding fantasy file, 10 to 15 minutes shorter, solo podcast in the meantime. So, plenty of bigger stuff going out as well. I have my best ball tiers go up earlier this week, and I still usually have, Wednesday, more of an hour-long podcast with my guy, Andrew Erickson, bringing on as many former players and analysts as I can on Friday. Got to talk to DeAndre Swift last week, which was awesome. T. Higgins before that. So, yeah, check it out. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was always fun to talk some ball with some fellow D-Gens.
That's right. And happy belated birthday, Andrew, by the way, a couple days ago. So, Coop, Gary, anything else for you?
I just want to say I love his candles.
Yes, sir.
Really sets the mood.
The mood lighting.
I'll have my own brand coming out before too long. So just you wait and put in a money order.
There you go. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, I've been muting mine because I've had the ambience of lightning just terrifying me every few minutes here. So that's how I've been muting my
If
thing.
that's not on brand, I don't know what is, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, the lightning round, dude. That's what's up. I dialed it up just for Ian.
Let's go.
Look at that. Love it. All right. Well, we're hit the hour mark, so we're going to get out of here. Again, for Ian, for Coop, for Gary Haddow, I'm Kevin Tompkins. Thank you for checking out Lightning Round, and have a great night, everybody.